into the next panel, if I may. Just want to make sure I have everyone's attention in case this housekeeping note applies to you. If I could ask you to kindly take your seats, please. Douglas, don't make me call you out. I'm calling you. Douglas, can you sit down, please?
Señor Mendoza.
Douglas, tienes que tomar tu asiento, por favor. Gracias. No, pero dicho con mucho cariño, ¿no? Said with a lot of love. So, I just wanted to announce that for those of you who are paying for your own accommodation, Miros, the two individuals who are behind the desk over there in the outside conference area, will begin having your hotel bills ready for payment after 5 p.m. today. So between after 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. tonight, as well as on Saturday, Friday and Saturday, you can pay your hotel bills. I know a few of you have had questions about that, so just wanted to clear that up. If Promundo is covering your accommodation, then, and you've already received support notes about that, you don't have to worry about that. But if you are covering your accommodation or you're covering the difference in accommodation, then you'll be going to pay that with Miros after 5 p.m. today. And you can do that between after 5 p.m. and Saturday. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane. And everyone, welcome back. I'm happy to see that you're really enjoying your coffee and tea break and engaging and interacting with colleagues. So that has left us with 50 minutes instead of 1 hour. So we'll do our best to end at 5:30 so that we can go to the cocktail afterwards. And it's been a very long day, so if you feel, oh, I'm always dizzy and falling asleep, stand up, do some dancing or whatever you like to feel awake and to listen to our excellent panel. We are still waiting for Maria. I don't know if she went sleeping, hopefully not, but I hope she's coming soon. So I'm Thomas Agnimo from Save the Children Sweden, also in the MenCare Steering Committee. So this panel will be about, this is a very short title, Conducting Advocacy with Key Institutions on Men's Caregiving and Gender Equality. So we'll do like we did in the previous session to have presentations from our panel. So try to keep it short and sweet, and then we'll end up with questions in the end. Hopefully we'll have some time at least in the end for question and discussions like we had in the previous sessions. So when I thought about planning to moderate this session on conducting advocacy with key institutions, etc., and also the theme, new and emerging findings in time for action, I thought it would be interesting to hear about from the panel and from you as well. What key institutions do we do advocacy with? How do we do it? What are the success factors? Like in Sweden, for example, the women's movement have been the ones who have been taking this field forward for 150 years. Welcome, Maria. And in the 1970s in Sweden, we had two instrumental changes that has created the Sweden we have today. With globally at least, Sweden is quite gender equal, and we say that Sweden is maybe the most gender equal country in the world, even though we have a long way to go. And these two reforms in the 70s, they were the parental leave reform. Now we have 90 days that are for each parent. So the fathers and the mothers, if you live in a heterosexual relationship together, that's the 90 days are for each parent. So men actually stay at home quite long in Sweden. And we have a subsidized public childcare system. So when the parents want to go back to work when the children are around 1.5, you can put the children into childcare, which is subsidized with good pedagogics, etc. So most men and women go back to work. So these were the instrumental things in Sweden that has brought us where we are today, I think. So these are policy changes and things that women's movement have been doing and moving the field forward for a long time. So then another issue I think on concerning advocacy is the relationship to the women's movement and the accountability issue that we as organizations working with men and boys always need to be accountable to the women's movement and their experiences that they have that we can learn from and work together on. So these are a few issues that came to my mind thinking about advocacy work with key institutions. And a key institution could be our governments, which is maybe a no-brainer, but it could also be to work in kindergarten and with kids in school, to start early. When I got my son, who is 8, at the delivery, there was a board with blue dots and a board with pink dots. So when there was a boy born, they put a dot on the blue and a girl a dot on the pink. So we already at birth, we're into the binary of boy and girl. So I think from the beginning, we can start with advocacy, and we are affected by different situations that are related to advocacy as well. So with that said, I would like to introduce our panel. We have Maria from Plent in Spain. We have Wessel from Sonke in South Africa. And I know that René, Wessel's partner in South Africa, is watching us. So hello, René. And then we have Liana and Milena as well in the panel. So all of you, very warm welcome. And we will start with Maria, who will talk about Plent, the present Plent, the Plent agenda, and how to promote equal non-transferable parental leave, including key successes and challenges. And I think it's easier that you introduce yourselves, because as we heard from Laxman in the previous panel, you have the biographies in the material that you have got in your folders this morning. So please, Maria, welcome.
Hello, everybody. I am very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me to present Plent, the platform for equal, non-transferable, and fully paid parental leave. I'm talking first about the goal, then about the public policy, and then about politics. The goal. Last century, thanks to feminism, women have arrived very far. We have broken down many barriers. Now we are allowed to study, we are allowed to work, and we do, but not in equal terms with men. Now we want equality, just equality. Equality at work and equality in the family. And we know that these are two sides of the coin, and they cannot be separated. They go always together. Then, what is the question regarding MenCare? To care or not to care? To help women or not to help women? No, this is not the question anymore. This century, the question is to care in equal terms as women. This is the question. We want the paradise for everybody. Half of care and half of employment equals full paradise. This is a win-win equation. Do you agree? Okay, good. Then what is the public policy that we need? How to achieve the paradise? How to make most men to care in the same terms as women and be happy? Nowadays, we know that human behavior doesn't change extensively by talking. If we look deeply, and economists do, it was a joke, but it's true, then we see that the human behavior, the behavior of individuals, is determined by regulations, incentives, demands by employers, education, etc., all together. We know that the behavior is determined by material conditions. Do you remember this sentence that it is not the consciousness that determines life, but it is life that determines the consciousness? I'm not telling you who said that in case you don't like him, but now nobody denies that. But the good news is that the material conditions that we need are very easy to achieve by means of public policies. The only thing we have to do is just giving men the individual and equal rights to care in the same way as women. And these rights have been stolen from them until now. How to do that? We have to base policies on scientific evidence and empirical evidence. We know now, and nobody denies that, even the European Commission writes that in the documents. We know that most men take parental leave only when two things together. It is non-transferable and it is paid more than 80% of the salary. This is a general truth in all countries and all historical period. Then, plenty. If we want equality, then let's do parental leave to be equal, non-transferable, and 100% paid. Because this is a precondition for equality. And look at this, because it's magic. It is so good that what works is fair. This is what works, and it is what is fair. Then what? If we look deeply, but more deeply, not like economists, but like persons, we look deeply, then we see a father, a man who works in a company, not as many of us, a man who has a boss, very demanding, a man who has to spend 8 or 9 hours a day in the company with a schedule, then this man probably wants to care for his baby in the same way as the mother. But if this father does not have a leave to take during the first year, the same length as the mother and paid at 100%, then he will be forced or tempted not to stay in charge of his baby during these precious months to build up this affective link with the child, which is so important, and we know. Then he will be expelled from paradise. And the mother will be kicked out of her job. Only 55% of Spanish women keep their jobs after maternity leave, but 100% of men keep their jobs after paternity leave. And all women will continue to be labeled as high-risk labor by employers. Look at Estonia. It's very important. The most generous parental leave and the highest gender pay gap in Europe. We know that. Then, this is our proposal, and this is a proposal for all countries. It's not more difficult in countries which don't have a generous parental leave. On the contrary, it is easier in Spain or in Latin America than it is in some countries in Europe, where they went too much ahead in one direction. Then this is our proposal, but politics. People ask us very often, but the governments are not going to be very enthusiastic about this idea. And we say, why? Why not? If they say they are for equality, if they say that women and men should share parental leave equally, and if they recognize evidence that, about what it works, why they are not for this proposal? And we say, okay, let's do and let's see what happened. I want to tell you my experience. I come from Spain, which is a very conservative country, with a very strong division of work between men and women. And there, in 2005, a group of people, a small group of people, we got together. We were researchers, activists, trade unionists, people from nowhere, and we started asking for parental leave, for paternity leave equal and non-transferable for fathers. And in 2007, we just, after a lot of discussions, we asked for equal, non-transferable, and fully paid parental leave. And we started PINA, which is the Spanish section of PLENT. And now, in Spain, 93% of mothers and 91% of fathers agree with this proposal. They agree because it is fair, they understand that it is fair, and that would be enough. But they also agree because they need it, because fathers need more parental leave, because families need more parental leave, and because this is the way to do it correctly. All political parties agree. Several motions have been approved by the Parliament to support this idea, and now the proposal of law is blocked at the Parliament by the government, but let's see what happens. I want to show you the video. It's 2 minutes. And in this way, I can just take the opportunity to show you the plant web. Please visit the plant web after that. It's very easy to find. And this is the video I want to show you about the plant proposal for Spain. 2 minutes. I hope you enjoy it. No. Oh. Sorry. No, I can't believe that.
That's nice with some jazz, isn't it?
No, but this, where is it? Final proposal for Spain, this.
I don't know what happened.
This one. Yeah, yeah. Full screen.
But the jazz is still around. Does anyone know why?
Yeah. Yeah. Full screen. No? Full screen.
Ah, that's why, okay.
Full screen. No. Okay, where is my... Okay, I was here. Okay, I just want 1 minute, sorry, Thomas. Then, it's true, just to finish, it's true that the governments are not enthusiastic. It's true. And what the governments propose now is all for women. Many tricks and traps, just to keep the status quo. They, for instance, propose transferable leave, like in Sweden, in Estonia, in Spain. The European Commission have a new proposal, by the way, and it has all the pitfalls. Pitfall of remuneration below 80%, that's the European Commission proposal now also. The pitfall of extending the period for taking the leave up to 8 years, like in Sweden, or even 12 years, like the European Commission proposes. Pitfall of calling it part-time, but in fact being twice as long and half pay, like in Iceland, or in the European Commission proposal, and more. All these pitfalls have the same result. While women will keep taking care of babies as before, men will kept away from providing the same care during the first months of the child's life as before. Then what the plans says or answers to these proposals? Well, we ask for equal, non-transferable and fully paid parental leave in all countries. And to reforms which go in that direction, we say, okay, but it's not equality yet. And we strongly oppose reforms which are in the opposite direction, even if they seem to be better than nothing, to be for women, to respond to the culture, etc., etc. And mind the path dependency. Ask Sweden. Because the Swedish government recognizes that it was a very big mistake, the reform of 1974, which made parental leave transferable for the first time in history. And we are in that trap. And please join Plant. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Maria, for an excellent presentation. And as you said, join Plant and talk to Maria during this conference if you want to know more. There's a lot of things to do on parental leave, and I'm Swedish and I'm born in 1974, so this has been for the entire part of my life, and I agree with you that our government has now finally realized that if it's transferable, women take the most part and men take only a few weeks here and there in the vacation time when the mother would be at home anyway. So at least 3 months alone with your baby makes you understand how much work it is to be at home, because it's work to stay at home with your kids. Happy and good work, but it still takes a lot of energy and time to do that. So thank you so much. Now we are going to listen to Wessel from Cape Town, South Africa, and Sonke, advocating for shared parental leave in South Africa. Welcome, Wessel.
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Maria, for a very inspiring presentation. I'm going to speak mostly about a step towards not shared parental leave, but parental leave for all parents. But prompted by Thomas's question about key institutions, I also wanted to mention a piece of rather more dynamic activism that we are doing in the context of the mining sector in South Africa. And I think these two institutions give two different flavors of the kind of advocacy that one can do. So this picture of working towards paternity leave in South Africa is for the labor framework or the labor law framework in South Africa. We have just under 7 million children in South Africa living who are younger than 5 years old. And we have a context where, with the latest time use data, we see that women still do about 8 times more household and childcare work as much as men do. So for every 1 hour that a man does of care work, it's similar to the proportion in Rwanda, actually, that we heard earlier. And as in many other countries, women do more paid and unpaid care work, or paid work and unpaid care work than men do. So this is a trajectory of how we arrived at what I will be talking about in terms of the changes that we are now achieving. And it was actually prompted by the launch of MenCare in South Africa. It played a key role. We recently discovered that inviting the Minister of Social Development to the launch of MenCare in 2011 led to her going back to her directors and saying, do something about fatherhood. And that then led to the white paper on families, which was a first document that was trying to put a policy language in place to support families, and a real strong emphasis on the plural and the plurality and complexity of families in South Africa. We then joined forces with a one-man campaign, not the One Man Can campaign, but there was a father whose 2 children were born with severe care needs. And he petitioned Parliament on his own, and he managed to get the conversation going in Parliament as a single father on paternity leave. And he proposed 10 days of leave as a step towards the eventual equal dream that we would like to achieve. So I'm not going to go through this whole timeline right now. I'm going to focus much more on the later part of the process. But it's a case study in how we have affected some policy change in the country. So currently, we have 4 months maternity leave. It's on a sliding scale. The money is drawn from the unemployment insurance fund. So when you become employed, you start paying into an account, and when you need that leave, you can draw on it. So if you have only been employed for a few months, you don't have much money to draw on. So it's as available. This has led to this fund being currently standing at a balance of 120 billion rand. So that would be what? What's that in dollars? Oh, it's a lot. But it's in individual people's accounts, and it's such a bureaucratic process to access that, that it's becoming And I think it's becoming a fiscus that could be drawn on, and that's what's helped for the movement towards paternity leave. There's no leave in place for fathers or any other parents. Anybody who works qualifies for 3 days of family responsibility leave. So that includes your weddings, your funerals, any family contingency. So we drew quite heavily on the MenCare parental leave platform and the State of the World's Fathers report from 2015 to inform our process. And then we had seen a few cases. This is only one example of two fathers. So in South Africa, we have civil union or gay marriage. It's been officially instituted for a few years now. And we have seen increasing couples, male couples, so two fathers, having to legislate to access leave. So having to go to the court to get granted maternity leave. So this is a case where one father actually got granted maternity leave by court order. And one of the points we were making was that if our constitution and our laws allow for same-sex marriage, it should allow for same-sex parenting, which it currently does not. So this was our recommended leave structure, and we specifically did not use gendered language. So we said parent 1 and parent 2. And unfortunately, we needed to revert to the idea of a primary and a secondary caregiver. Conceptually, we don't differentiate, and fathers are primary caregivers too. But we wanted to use a categorization that would provide, similar to the Plen proposal, 10 working days of leave in the initial postnatal period, and then 6 months not shared for both parents. So this was the bold statement that we submitted in our submission to Parliament. We suggested 100% for the 10 days and 75% for the longer period of 6 months. There's our colleague Karen Reesey in Parliament. And building on what Thomas was saying earlier and also presentations earlier, we did this as a partnership between several women's rights organizations. Mosaic was a part of that, Sonke was a part of that. We also had quite a lot of support from the trade union, the largest trade union in South Africa, COSATU, the Confederation of South African Trade Unions. When we did the presentation, it was actually the one guy, Henry, that I mentioned earlier, Mosaic, Sonke, and the trade union. We were the only people who were presenting on this. And I've brought along a few of these DVDs. I'm going to pass them around. I've got a few of them. You'll see our proposal on the back of the DVD. So we did some marketing in Parliament. We actually went to each member of Parliament and we gave them this pack of materials, which they then took home to inform their decisions. And it's a pity Tulani is not here. He's actually got a pain in his leg and he's at the hospital right now down the road. But that's Tulani and his wife Yolanda. So Tulani works at Sonke. Sonke offers a month of fully paid leave for fathers. And she was able to talk about the experience of being a new mother and her partner having had leave. So she gave a very powerful testimony in Parliament on the benefits that she experienced from having a partner who had time to do the care work. So part of what this lobbying resulted in was a new bill, which is called the Labour Laws Amendment Bill. It has now been approved by the committee that has deliberated about it, and the final step is that it's voted on. The support from all parties who have deliberated on it has been unanimous, which is strange, actually. One would have expected some disagreement. I don't know if it's still under the radar, but it is something that everybody agreed about. So that was one of the surprising experiences. So the new bill keeps maternity leave in place, and there's an increase in allocation of payment to 66%. It's not on a sliding scale anymore. So if you're a new mother, you immediately qualify for that 66%. And it's not, that 66% is now for all parents. So, yeah, and then I think the landmark achievement is not necessarily the amount of time, but it's the fact that we achieved non-gendered language. It's the fact that the bill speaks about parental leave and not paternity versus maternity leave. So in addition to the maternity leave, we've been able to establish the parental leave. So yeah, I think that was two of the major achievements. And then these are the other two. So I've mentioned the gender neutral language. And then, as I've mentioned before, so that camera over there, behind it, you'll see my family. They're sitting in Cape Town watching. So hi again to my family. My children are adopted. And something that is new from this bill's achievement is that we now have 10 weeks of leave for adoptive parents and for commissioning parents in a surrogacy agreement. So we have had surrogacy arrangements in South Africa before, but we now have leave for parents who commission a surrogacy. 10 weeks is not much. It's not the 4 months yet, but it's a major step forward. And there is that picture is a picture of a restroom in the basement of Parliament in Cape Town. And I took that picture on the day that the committee, on the right, there's the chairperson of the committee, that the committee approved the language. And we are especially proud of this clause, which allows for the adoptive leave to be active from the moment of placement of the child. It was this crazy arrangement previously where the leave would only be activated once you get your adoption order. And I just received my adoption order for my son last week, actually, on Wednesday. And he's now almost a year old, and he's been with us for 6 months. So according to the current regime, I would now qualify for some leave after he's been with us for 6 months. So it was just those technicalities that took some lobbying. So going to Lena and saying to Lena in the tea break, as the Member of Parliament for the economic freedom fighters, can you please push the point? And then going to the ANC and saying to the African National Congress rep, Laxman, the EFF is going to push this. Can you do this? Can you support them on that? Because it will be good, according to what Jacob Zuma said 3 months ago. The frightening thing, so I mentioned the surprising piece that nobody opposed it, but the frightening thing was, like Maria says, politics. So how quickly it moved from evidence and an argument of substance to my party is going to prove your party wrong, regardless of the point. And there were a few times where we had to kind of cool the argument so it doesn't become me just proving that I'm right and you're wrong, but that there's actually an argument about what is at stake here. So that's the parental leave advocacy. I've got 3 minutes left of my 15 minutes. I wanted to mention the other one, which is way on the other side of the spectrum. So this is a mine worker who is living with a condition called silicosis. It's a terminal condition that often results in tuberculosis. That's directly caused by the lack of health and safety standards in the mines in South Africa. Thousands of men return from working in mines to their homes to be cared for by their wives and children. So in effect, the unpaid care of women and children is subsidizing the mining sector. So we're involved in a class action suit. It's actually the largest class action suit in the history of the country against the 5 biggest mining companies in South Africa for compensation. So the compensation will be good, but it will also set a precedent for better care for mine workers and acknowledgement of the unpaid care that women and children provide for those who work in the mines. So that's another key institution to think about, is the private sector, and especially holding the mining sector accountable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wessel. I think, at least what I think about now when I listen to you, is that we are all committed because of our personal lives as well, and I think that's important to acknowledge. I do this because I have personal commitment. Also that we work together in alliances. That's what you did is an excellent example of working together with different organizations, politicians, whoever, that's supporting the cause. And that you can also use politicians, like you did with ANC and EFF, to pass your bill, so to say. And if we want to know more about this gold thing and the silicosis case, of course, Wessel is here as well to talk more about that. That's also interesting how we can also work with businesses, as you say, for our cause. And now I'd like to welcome to the stage Liana from International Step by Step Association, ISA, and Milena from Center for Interactive Pedagogy. They will talk about promoting and advocating for a gender diverse workforce in early years services and supporting fathers' engagement in early years. Very warm welcome to you as well.
Thank you.
So, are you falling asleep? No? If you feel tired, please stand up and shake a bit or move around a bit, because sitting for a whole day is, at least for me, challenging. So if you stand up and dance a bit, we'll endorse that as well. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Both Milena and I are aware that we are the last speakers of today. It's been a long day, and we are standing between you and the drink during the cocktail reception, so we will try to be short, but also hopefully give you some inspiration if possible. We're very delighted to have been invited. It's my first time at the Promundo event, and we are a similar network to yours, so I want to share from my personal, let's say, experience that I'm very happy to be here, both because we have so many common beliefs and common objectives, but also because we function very much as a learning community, we in ISA, as you. So for me, to attend your event has been an inspiration on how to promote shared messages and push the agenda forward, but also sustain a learning community. And I've learned from you, so thank you for the invitation today. I'm myself Romanian. I live now in the Netherlands, so to give you also a bit of who I am as a person. I represent here ISA. I'm the director of ISA, and as I mentioned, we are a network. We are actually a membership association, so unlike you, we have formal membership. ACEV is one of our members. Suna is here, so we're very proud that one of our members has also shared from their experience. We have now about 75 member organizations in Europe and Central Asia. So this is our geographical focus, a little smaller than yours, as you are such an impressive global movement. And what brings us together as a network is actually child development, what best supports child development and learning from before birth to age of 10. And we do this by being a platform for promoting universal, high-quality, inclusive services for young children. We bridge research, practice, and policy in early childhood development. We engage members and stakeholders in shared learning. So again, like you, we very much function like a learning community, and we struggle with the same questions as we had in a small group earlier. How do we transfer innovation from one place to another? How do we avoid reinventing the wheel? And being such a rich network, how can we ensure that we actually know what's happening in our own network? And I understood from your discussions that this is something that MenCare is also trying to work on. So I look forward to learning from you how you will do that. We also give voice to the civil society, to practitioners, families, and children. And I found that you also, I found inspiration in your work as well here. Moving ahead, I will ask Milena to say a few words about SIP being a member of ISA.
We are a member of ISA from Serbia, and we are almost 20 years young organization. And we are focused on improvement the status of children and youth in Serbia, practicing child rights, environment for development, learning, participation, and respecting diversity and social cohesion in general in our society. So we are a professional organization. We are experts, and we try to translate contemporary theoretical knowledge into the practice. That's our role, and usually we work on some small models and parts and try to give to ministry, and usually they do something with that, but it's not, we don't have enough time to explain how they use it, but that's our mission and what we are doing. And thank you for inviting us. And thank Liana for sharing the time.
Sure. Yeah. So we will continue to share some of our key messages, and I hope you will be happy to learn that our network very much promotes the same key messages that your network does, except we promote it from the angle of child development and what best supports child learning, child development. So our key messages are very much what we heard during the day, in the importance of involving fathers, promoting gender equality in the workforce, those who work in services for young children, supporting high quality and inclusive services for young children. And in order to do this, we need both men and women to be involved, and also a diversification of the workforce. On the issue of fathers' engagement, we have among our 75 member organizations, many of them work on programs supporting father involvement. ACEV is one example, but our colleagues in Belarus, in Tajikistan, in Latvia, in Poland, in Estonia. So I encourage you to go to our website, and just after hearing so many of your programs, if you're seeking partners from the field of early childhood development with the same messages, but as Milena said, more from the practice and pedagogical aspect of the issue, please look at our website where we list the members, and you may find a strong member organization of ours in in your country. But again, Europe and Central Asia, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Central Asia, former Soviet Union, not so much in other parts of the world. And I want to share the few minutes that we have left, and Milena will share as well some of their experiences, an example of how we actually promote father engagement and how we support engaging men in the lives of young children. This is an example of some modules we developed in the network for the home visitors. So this is to support the practitioners, in this case nurses, but it may as well be social workers or others who do home visiting, to empower them and give them notions of co-parenting, and this notion that the parenting team, the caretaking by both partners together with mutual support. So how can a home visitor, after going through this module and this training, whether as self-training or self-learning or for more formal training, how can the home visitor promote this during the visits to families? We also offer in this particular module results of research. Why is it important? What's the impact of fathers and their engagement? There are models of engaging fathers, but also promoting a strength-based approach, empowering and supporting fathers to take an active role. So again, if you go to our website, you can actually download this module, and it can be used perhaps in some of your programs in case you're working with home visitors, and if you wish to have this father involvement as a focus. Another module in this set of resources, and I should say, if you look, it's a resource developed by our network, ISA, together with UNICEF for Central Eastern Europe and CECIS. And it is now being rolled out in several countries in partnership with the Ministries of Health. In Serbia, in Croatia, in Turkmenistan, and many other countries are now embedding this training to prepare nurses, whether pre-service or in-service. We have 14 modules. This one is one of them, engaging fathers. And another module, which is underdeveloped now, looks at gender, girls, boys, women, and men, gender issues in early childhood and parenting. And here we encourage practitioners, in this case the home visitors, to explore their own biases and values. How do they interpret the traditional roles of men and women? And looking now on the right column, we listed some of the challenges. Of course, you all encounter them, and we've heard them during the day. There's a resistance within families themselves when they share notions of roles of men and women. There is, of course, also social pressure that real men do not do this, they do not engage with young children, it's a woman's job. But there's also resistance among practitioners. So we in our network, working with the practitioners, we very much encourage them to explore their own prejudice. We all have them, prejudices, stereotypes, we're products of our societies. And just one short example, in the framework of how we define quality pedagogy, you will see around the circle, there are several areas where we look at quality of interactions, quality of assessment, assessment and planning, teaching strategies, but there's also a very important one, inclusion, diversity, and values of democracy, where we explore engaging family members, we explore gender equality, and also in the area of family and community involvement and the area of learning environment. And finally, on a few of my slides, speaking quickly on the diversity in the workforce, this is a big issue in the early years, in the sense that, as you know, the majority of people working there are women. And in Europe, at least, there was a benchmark set that by 2006, 20% would be male among the early years workforce. However, we're very far from that target. And although research tells us that would be really good, we still do not do it. And I think the question should not be why don't we do it, but can we afford not to do it? Because having more men in early years would benefit children, research tells us. It would benefit families and those men themselves, because perhaps they are really eager to pursue this career. But it would also benefit the workforce itself, because it might actually be better paid if there would be more men in this workforce. And you know, these are some of these answers that we find in our field. Why are there so few men in early years? It's because it's a female world, it's badly paid, there's the association with abuse in many countries, you know, even if there's no grounds for that. There is, of course, a conflict with the perceived male identity in the culture, the role models, and also reaction from peers. A solution that we try, we started a new initiative in our network called the Early Childhood Workforce Initiative, where we promote many things, competency, standards, but among the things we promote is also the recognition of the profession, those who work in the early years, and the diversity of the profession. So I encourage you to go to this website. And now I'll pass on the microphone to Milena.
In Serbia, there are 2% of preschool teachers are male teachers, and we realized that 250 of them are completely invisible. So we did a survey to assess to see how they assess their status and needs, and we were a little bit surprised because they're very happy with their job. They do what they plan to do in their lives. They are supported by families, and they don't see any difference between them and female preschool teachers. So we were ready to work on some additional programs to support them, to advocate to ministry, but now we are planning in-depth research to see what is the added value. Why we need male preschool teachers if they are doing the same job and see them completely the same as the male. So I think it's a big door we are opening now, because we are thinking about additional values. Is there connected with more participation of fathers? They can do something that female preschool teachers cannot do, or something else. But we are just on the beginning of that. And it's really interesting when you start from the self-assessment. You need to recheck your your plans and your ideas. So that's the one thing we plan to do. And the other is connected with the participation of fathers. You know, we are doing the parenting program in 15 communities. It's a program for children and families strong from the start, down in Paka. They're focused on Roma parents and families and children on the preschool age. And we are dealing with a lot of prejudice, not only from Gađa, those who are not Roma. You know that people think that Roma are bad parents, they don't care about education, about kids, but fathers are really bad guys in eyes of not only those who are not Roma, but also Roma. And our partner, Roma NGOs who are facilitating the program in settlements, they thought that fathers are completely not interesting to participate. They don't want to mix with mothers, and we didn't want to have separate programs. We want to have one program. So now we start with the mixed team of facilitators. We have one male and female facilitator in each NGO, except 3 women Roma NGOs. They don't accept this approach. And now they are working in more engagement of fathers. And our experience from the first phase of implementing and developing the program was that Roma NGOs thought that they are not interesting, but fathers came and say, always something is offered to our women, our wives, nothing for us. We are waiting for years, something to be offered to us. We are also interested in many things. So they didn't want, in some cases, they didn't want to be together with wives on the same workshops, but they joined the workshops with children. So that was the way how they become more active, and they were playing and doing so many nice things with their children. So we are now advocating, because in the strategy for social inclusion of Roma in Serbia, there are a lot of focuses on the rights of the women, but nothing about the men. So now we realize there is some gap, and now we try to advocate for that.
There's a last site. If you would like our email addresses and also our websites, please do contact us. We're happy to join forces for the common objectives.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Liana and Milena, for that. Very interesting, and it's also good to get to know examples, because I think we tend to work in our own silos, and we don't know about excellent job that is done in other organizations. So at least I will talk to you in the cocktail and hear more about your work and how we can also work together and share the experiences, because I think in the field generally we work in projects, but this needs to be programmed like you do in Serbia with 15 communities. We need to program this and make it part of the curriculum in schools, for example, to work on these issues. So we started 10 minutes late, so then I think we can also finish a few minutes late. We have then 4 minutes for comments and questions. We can do 3, and then they have a chance to reply, and then we'll go to the cocktail, okay?
Thanks much. It was very interesting and inspiring. And I have 2 questions. One is to Maria, another one to Wessel. One in relation to the leave. You said that it was blocked now by the government, and I would like to know the reason. My assumption it would be that it's, you know, the subsidiary payment that relates to the payment to compensation of the parental leave, right? So it will be covered by the public funds. So that might be one of the reasons. The second question is relates to the parental leave that Wessel was highlighting. So it's not the paternity leave, I understand, right? It's parental leave. So it's not related specifically to father, right? It's one of the parents. So the question is that will men still use that, and if women just add on what they have, basically.
Thank you. Anyone else? We can chat in the cocktail as well if you don't want to ask a question now. Yes, Lena. Please also introduce yourselves.
Yes, so my name is Lena and I work for UN Women. So I also have a question for Maria. I didn't also really understand, is it 16 weeks for women and 16 weeks for men? And then also to the last presenters, I mean, is violence prevention part of the program, both violence against women and violence against children?
Okay. Maria, would you like to start, please?
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Thomas. Thank you for your questions. Well, they say that the government now to block the proposal of a Spanish plant at the parliament, they say it is because it increases the public expenditure. Then, of course, it increases the public expenditure. And they have legally, they have the right, the government have the right to stop the parliament when there is an increasing of public expenditure, any proposal, any law, proposal of law. But it is not the truth. It is not the real reason, because at the same time that they, I mean, this has been going on and on for many years, and it is the same everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but in many countries. When we talk about increasing maternity leave, it is like it is for free. Nobody talks about budget. It's, of course, increasing maternity leave. The Spanish government has voted at the European Parliament for increasing, the Spanish government and the Spanish parties, for increasing maternity leave many times. At the same time that the party of the government in Spain kept saying that there was no money to increase paternity leave, even for 1 week. And I have to tell you that in Spain, and I guess, in Spain, 1 week of maternity leave is the same public expenditure of 1 week of paternity leave. Exactly the same. 100,000 million, 100 millones, 100 million euros every year for 1 week of maternity leave, and the same for 1 week of paternity leave. Then it is the same, increasing maternity leave or increasing paternity leave. Then that is not the reason. And of course, it is going to be, the proposal is to be financed by the social security, exactly as maternity leave. And to the other question of Lena, right? Yeah, it's 1616, of course. It's not that we even not say 1616. We say 16 weeks for everyone, regardless of if you are a woman or a man, if you are the kind of family. Individual, completely individual leave for everyone. And what I have to say is that, of course, for instance, to Thomas and to Sweden, of course, 3 months is better than nothing. But why 3 months for men and 15 months for women? Why? I mean, we want to be equal, right? If we want to be equal, it should be the same length. And also, of course, non-transferable and all that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Negina. So I forgot to speak about this bullet. It was up on the slide, but I didn't talk about it. I saw a few people yawning, so I thought I should speed up. You are right. It's termed parental leave. That's for parents who do not qualify for maternity leave. So the largest group will be fathers. So there's a smaller group of mothers who are married to mothers who are not biological mothers who will also qualify for the 10 days. So it's not gendered. There's a deeper question you asked, which is whether fathers will take that. And so I'm happy to announce the State of South Africa's Fathers 2018, 1 year from now, will answer that question. So we have some household data on whether children live with parents or not, but we also have other data that's a bit more nuanced on income dynamics, which we will use to feed into the State of South Africa's Fathers. And hopefully that will give us the data to advocate for more. Thank you.
Just very briefly to respond to the question, we frame all our work within children's rights. So, of course, preventing violence against children goes without saying. We do much more around preventing violence, in other words, peace building, let's say, by looking at early years services as a meeting point. So preventing violence also in the community, because when parents, even in conflict areas, when they talk about the dreams they have for their children, the early years can be such a meeting point. And furthermore, we do work in the sense of helping the children that grow up now perhaps have less prejudices and less inclination to violence when they grow up. So we have programs that we call Embracing Diversity, which target both children and those who work with children or care for children to encourage them to assess their own prejudices. So we hope that it addresses the issues now, but also for the future.
Okay, thank you everyone for being so brave and staying until 5:45 after a very long day, and thanks to the panel. And as I said plenty of times before, plenty of times, the people from Gothenburg will understand that. We have another 2 days to continue these very interesting discussions and interact with each other and talk about the different ways we work with this issue. Now Jane is just coming with some final words on the practicalities for tonight. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for such a wonderful, fruitful first day. We look forward to seeing you again, first at the cocktail hour, which is right outside where we had our coffee break. So please join us. And if not, if we don't see you at the cocktail, then we will see you tomorrow at 9 a.m., where we'll be launching the 2017 State of the World's Fathers. Thank you all so much.